News Talk 1440 WROK.
Good morning, everybody. Dave Schmidt along with Matt Nestor and producer Tom Warner. If you missed some of the stuff we've talked about today or want to find out about the high school football games last night, check out StatelineSportsHub.com. They're all flashing across there. You can find them. You can see the interviews, listen to interviews again, and it's free. Right, Tom?
It's absolutely free.
It's free. Hey, right now we're going to move over to girls tennis, and one of the better girls tennis programs in the Nick 10 has always been Auburn. And with us we have head coach Tracy Palmer. And first of all, Coach, boy, you're getting some media press. I've seen some nice videos on you through the school system and stuff. It's got to be kind of nice for girls tennis to get that much PR anymore, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's been a pretty unique situation. I mean, it's been a lot of more attention all of a sudden this year. But, I mean, it's fun. It's just a lot of fun stuff.
You know, I was going to ask you, I was kind of thinking as we were preparing here for you, there's been a lot of attention. Obviously, you know, football and basketball usually get a lot of attention.
Right.
But you know, there's been a lot of attention as Auburn's kind of resurrected some of those programs here over the last few years. You know, but you've really had a solid program there for a long time. You know, so obviously there's challenges for some programs there. What have you been able to do kind of over the years to be able to build that solid, consistent program?
Kids that come to the school, I have a lot of kids who come in. I know as freshmen, I know that in middle school they've been playing a lot of tennis, and it's just been a nice feeder program from Marshall that comes over to us. So, and that's most of my players do come from Marshall, so it's just been a unique situation.
What's the key to putting together a good tennis team? Because I know you have some really good kids and things, and tennis is a little bit different way.
Chemistry.
Yeah.
Finding the right kids that can play with the right kids. Sometimes they don't always match up very well, but you have to find ones that can really get along with their partners in doubles, especially. In our conference, doubles is most important because you have two singles players that play for you and then three doubles teams. So the doubles are where you really need to have people who can play together well.
You know, how much, I guess, strategy do you put in on where you place those? Because I know, you know, certain kids or teams might match up better against different ones. You know, do you ever play around with who your number one and number two slots are, you know, just based off of the matchups?
You try not to do that because our conference tournament's based on head-to-head matches throughout the season. So if you start doing that, you get yourself in trouble at the conference seed meeting because if you didn't have your players play the other team's players, you kind of get knocked down for that. So it does make for a problem that if you think you could beat somebody in a certain spot, you might want to switch it. But if you do, then it's going to hurt you in the long run because at the conference meet, you won't have a head-to-head match against that team. That team's going to get placed ahead of you, so you might get a little less draw than you wanted. So it's all, you know, it's how you want to play it, but it's always difficult to do that because it can hurt you in the long run.
We're talking to Auburn girls tennis coach Tracy Palmer, and I know you're playing like at 8 o'clock today at Harlem in the Nick 10 match. Did you guys schedule that a little bit earlier because of the heat? Because this weather, it really has an effect on tennis players, doesn't it?
No, it's an invitational. There's going to be two schools there, and it's just that we always like to get them started in the morning. And if we have like a little rain delay like we have now, even if we get it started by 9, it'll be fine. We'll get them done by 1 or 2 o'clock. So that's why we start them early. Plus, beat the weather, the heat also. But we always try to start them early, and then, you know, if something goes wrong, we don't have to cancel it right away. So,
what kind of start have you had to the season so far?
We've only played East so far, and we beat them. And my doubles are playing pretty well. We're still working to get my singles girls. They're coming up. They're not as experienced as my doubles players. All my doubles players are back from last year. So, and my 1 and 2 singles players last year who went to state, they're playing 1 doubles for me this year. My 1 doubles is playing 2 doubles this year, and my 2 doubles is playing 3 doubles. So hopefully we are fairly strong in the double spots.
You know, you have to be serve good. You have to play good at the net and all those type of things. As a coach, what do you kind of concentrate on when you're working with a kid? Do you try to help each one with what they may be not as good at and kind of improve?
As the season progresses, we try to help them out with their little chinks in their game. We spend a lot of time with the doubles. They just spend a lot of time at the net working on volleys and overheads and approach shots. So they're constantly working at that at practice, so they feel more comfortable with that during the match. So, and my singles players spend a lot of time just hitting ground strokes and working on just being consistent.
You know, what was the process behind, you know, matching the single players up together? I think that's pretty interesting, you know, when they did so well last year individually to match them up. You know, I imagine it's got to be a good team, but what was kind of the thought process behind matching them up?
Well, I have Megan Medarana, who's probably the best net player in the conference. She's unbelievable at hitting volleys and overheads, and she really loves doubles. And Emma finally kind of saw the light that maybe doubles, they could really do something special in doubles this year as far as conference, sectionals, and state. So they'd like to take a crack at that. And if you split them up and play them in singles all season, and you put a team together just for sectionals and state, it usually doesn't work well because they haven't played enough matches together.
When you look at tennis, I mean, what is some of the equipment needs that you need? How important is that racket nowadays? Back in the old days, we had the ones where they were wood or whatever they were, and you had to put them in the things. How important is that for a kid to find the right racket when they're playing the high school tennis?
It's highly important because they have to find something they're comfortable with and something they trust. And the strings are also very important. They have to make sure they keep them constantly changing them and putting the right tension on them. So that's the other important part that people don't look too much at. Sometimes you see a kid's racket, he's test the strings a little bit and say, hey, you need to get some new ones in this one. It's not, they're too loose. So that's the other part of the game that people don't focus on totally, that they need to keep track of.
Yeah, I was going to say, how many rackets do they usually have, with them? Because I know there's nothing more frustrating. I've seen it happen to some friends in the past where you're playing and one of those strings bust, and now all of a sudden you got to switch rackets in the middle of a game.
Most of my players have at least 2 rackets, the varsity girls. And the younger ones who are still learning, they usually just keep one because they don't usually have much problem with their strings. But the girls who play a lot, they go through their strings pretty quick, so they kind of keep an extra racket at all times handy.
Your team, from doing my homework and stuff, it seems pretty balanced. I mean, you have a lot of options you can do. And do you have some younger kids right behind them kind of pushing them a little bit?
We have a few. Not too many yet because we've had a few years of a dry spell as far as getting freshmen and sophomores coming in. But we've got about 3 or 4 freshmen and sophomores who are really looking like they're going to be something in the future. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how they progress in the off season.
What are some of the goals for the team? I know in a lot of ways it can be individualized, but obviously you want to succeed as a team as well. So what are some of the goals you guys have?
Right now it's just finish top 3. I mean, there's 5 teams in this. This could be one of the most wide-open conferences we've had in a long time. There's 5 teams that all have strengths and weaknesses, and it just depends on how well the season goes and how the conference plays out as far as who gets matched up against who. So it's going to be interesting between us and Boylan and Hononegah, Guilford, and Belvedere North. It's going to be an interesting season.
How does the Nick 10 do it? Do you combine like the conference and the regular season games to determine the champion?
What we do is each dual meet is worth a point. So if you win a dual meet, you get a point, and that goes towards the conference. And sometimes all it does is come down to that 2 teams tie. But if they lost the dual meet, they had that point, and that's where they end up beating the other team. It's happened a couple times.
How important is it to have a deep conference? You were kind of touching on that, but especially when you're going to see them in conference, probably see a lot of them in sectionals again. To really push you if you do have some individuals or whatever that make it downstate. How important is that tough competition kind of throughout the season?
It's the competition that's why we play these weekend tournaments, because that's where we see teams from around the state, and like we go to Lakes for a 16-team tournament later this season, and we'll see a lot of top teams there, and those matches are the ones that matter for state seeding. Sectionals, all that matters is what we do in our conference matches. So there's two variables there that you have to look at.
Who is the team that around our area that you say is the team that someday you would like to be like them? Is that a Notre Dame out there in girls tennis right now?
Well, not in our area, but the Chicago suburbs have got quite a lot of powerful teams that County win state with Hinsdale and Nutria. But as far as our area, I think I'm pretty happy the way our program has been going.
When you look at it, and all the kids you have out there that you've played and right now playing for you, is there one kid that doesn't get a lot of credit but really does stuff for you that really helps out the rest of the team during the year, Coach? An unsung hero?
Well, I have to say my captain is probably the leader, Megan Minerata, because she's like the one that stirs the pot. She keeps all the girls kind of in the loop. She keeps motivating all of them. She kind of helps them with a few pointers here and there. But she's definitely the one that is like the catalyst to our whole team.
Well, Coach, thanks for taking time out. I know today there was a tournament and all that stuff, and congratulations to you on a great program over at Auburn, and hopefully you'll get a couple of kids down to state, and we can talk to you again maybe.
That would be great. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Tracy. We've been talking with Tracy Palmer, the girls' tennis coach at Auburn. I think he's also the boys' coach.
Yep.
And they've had a great program there, too, as well. But, we all can try to play tennis or watch tennis. But when I watch really good tennis players, it's amazing.
That is a tough game. It's probably the one more than just about any other sport that I think people see and they're like, oh, I could do that. But it is hard.
Yes.
It is hard, When I was in high school, I had several friends that played on the tennis team, and a lot of us would try to get together on weekends, maybe just kind of hit the ball around.
There's a difference.
And us compared to them, Yeah.
There's a young lady that sits behind us at church, out at Hope Church in Roscoe, and she's about 5'3", but she went and played college last year in Nebraska.
Yeah.
She must be awesome because she's not that big.
Right.
But they can hit the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And Tia does a nice job of that, so I thought I'd throw her name in. She's a nice kid. Hey, we're going to take a time out. We'll be back, and we'll look at next week's high school football schedule. Lots of things going on, and kind of update you on that. You're listening to the State Line Sports Hour right now here on News Talk 1440 WROK.
You already have your clock radio